So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Workforce Wednesday. Today our topic is tips for teaching resume writing. And your presenter is Olga Escamilla, which is myself. And today is March 20th, and she has over 20 years in adult education and literacy. She currently serves as a PD Center Specialist for Train PD. She served as a teacher aide, a data entry clerk, a supervisor for adult ed, a PD grant coordinator, a director of adult education. I've also served as a job coach and a workforce case manager for TWC, or one of the workforce centers run under a workforce board. And I'm also a senior lecturer at A&M Kingsville, where I teach Masters of Adult Ed courses. I've earned my Associate in Science, my Bachelor's in Business Administration and Accounting, minor in Economics, my MBA in Management, and my PhD in Leadership. So thank you for joining us today. 2 tips for teaching resume writing, and we'll get started. So today, our objectives are we're going to cover what is a resume, types of resume, what's important to include, using action words, 7 ways to botch your resume, and then final tips for all basic resumes. So this may be something that, like a refresher for you, some of a refresher for you, or it may be some new information. Our first question we're going to start with is, what is a resume? Is it a sales pitch, a marketing tool? Is it a commercial? Is it a product? So what do you think a resume is? And type that in your own words, and I'm going to give you some time. And April's already, it's a first impression. Thank you, April. So what is a resume? Michelle says a marketing tool to market yourself. Very good. An introduction. And thank you, Kelly. And Susan says, I think it's all the above. Yes. And Michelle, and to very quickly get their attention. Very good. But it says it is actually all of those. Yes. Tara says, I believe that it's a marketing tool to help show your talents. Cam says skills detail. And Andrea says opportunity to explain your experience and applicable skills. Marketing your skills. Everybody, it's going really fast. Joseph is saying why, elevator pitch of your credentials to highlight your talents. Very good, very good. And Nabor says it's a professional presentation and a short history of your education and work experience along with skills. Michelle, professional preview of you to tell the employer you are the best candidate. Thank you all. Great participation. I love it. And I appreciate all of your responses. So a resume is a 1 to 2 page document. So this is very, very formal. You all just hit it right on the nail in very few words. That sums up a job seeker's qualifications for the job they're interested in. It's more than just more than the formal job application. It's, again, did somebody say marketing tool? Yes. Marketing tool that job seekers use to communicate their values to employers. So somebody said that. I know it. And it's also a summary of the most important information an employer needs to know when they're considering a new hire. So somebody said that too, a short history of your education. So yes, summary of your experiences and education. Very good. So y'all hit it right on the nose. This is, y'all just did it in less words than I did. So thank you. So the next question I have for you is, we know what a resume is, so what is the sole purpose? So I'm looking for the sole purpose. What is the sole purpose of a resume? You already said a marketing tool, but okay, Bud, you're quick. To get an interview, to get a job, to get noticed, value conveyance to the organization, to get hired, to get an interview. Okay, a lot of good responses. To engage the employer effectively enough to get an interview. Yeah, like I said, this is a refresher for you. Definitely a refresher. The resume sole purpose is to land an interview. So very good. Yay, everybody. So if employers like what they see in your resume, they're going to contact you to schedule an interview. So during the interview, they'll evaluate how well your skills match the job requirements and how well your personality fits with the team. So yes, to land an interview. So thank you for those of you who are participating in the chat box. I appreciate it. It's great to have active participation. All right, so let's continue. So the different types of resume. We're going to cover the different types of resume. We're going to talk a little bit about chronological. We're going to talk a little bit about functional, a little bit about combination, and then a little bit about the targeted resume. So has everybody heard and this is not a chat bubble, but has everybody heard of these 4 different types? And there may be even another type, but these are the 4 that we're going to talk about today. So yes, you all have heard about these 4. Very good. So let's talk about the chronological resume. So the chronological resume, this is a basic resume, and it's the best for those people with a solid employment background who have no lapses in their work history. It's also beneficial if most of your experience coincides with the job you're interested in. So this chronological resume, that's the best for those with a solid background and no lapse in work history. So generally, the last 10 to 15 years should be listed on the resume. You start with the most current position and work backwards. That's why it's chronological. Most current and work backwards. So it's not etched in stone that only full-time jobs should be listed. So include part-time jobs too. Any kind of volunteer work or anything else that will emphasize the work that you have to offer. So many times employers want to know if there's any lapses, if there's any time spans that you did not work, what were you doing or why. So chronological, again, it's the best type, and you want to be sure that you list all of your experience. Let's move on to functional. A functional resume. So it focuses on your skills and experiences and de-emphasizes your work history because you may have gaps that occur for any number of reasons, such as raising a family, illness, or job loss. So employment history is secondary to the abilities you have to offer. So again, it's beneficial for new graduates who have limited employment experience or people who are in the middle of a career change. Those who have had diverse occupations with no focused career path will also find this type of resume very helpful. So does this sound more like our students, this whole functional resume? Because they have gaps? Yes, I see a lot of yeses. They have a lot of gaps in their employment history. So we want to focus on those skills and abilities. Will we be, oh, that's a good one, Michelle, and I don't have a sample of this. And I thought about it, but I didn't. But what we could do is maybe we could go and look for it shortly. When I go to the web, I'm going to show you a couple of things, and maybe we can see a sample of it. And I probably have one of my own, but I don't want to pull that up right now. So let's move on to combination. So a combination is highlighting both your skills and your traits and provides a chronicle listing of your experience. It gives you a flexible platform to list your workplace assets and show what kind of employee you are. So this one, you'll list the most recent or advanced degrees first and your work in reverse order. So if there are older courses that are more specific to the position, you list them first. You don't have to list graduation dates, but if you graduated like summa cum laude or you have achieved other higher scholastic honors, don't be modest about listing them. This will set you apart from other applicants. So one of the things that, and I say this, but I've heard, yes, John, 10 years back. So one of the things that I've heard is that sometimes people don't want to list like scholastic honors or things like that. And it all varies dependent, you just really never know. Let's see what people are saying. Tara says she teaches at a jail. Yes, you want to be able to list that. That's a special skill that you have to, or special knowledge that you have to have, because teaching at a jail in a jail setting is not the same as a regular classroom. So Andrea says many students are scared to tell employers about taking off time for kids. True. That whole listing, graduated summa cum laude or with honors and things like that, sometimes it just depends, like I said. But when in doubt, list it, because it may just help you. It might be that edge that you do need to get that job. Okay, let's talk about the targeted resume. So the targeted resume. So this is a basic resume. It's customized and specific to the position you want. So it's got your work history, your abilities, and education that are reflections of the job requirements. So targeted is very specific to a job. So I've heard, again, with this one, I've heard some conflicting information because, you know, you might develop a resume, or your students may develop a resume, and they have one resume. So do they want to use that resume for every job, or do they want to make a targeted resume that's going to fit the position that they're applying for? Those skills that they possess, because we don't want to lie, so those skills that they possess, do they want to customize their resume so that employers will see those skills that are most relevant to the job? And that is highly likely. So for example, if you're applying for a position as a book editor in a publishing company, you could emphasize your master's degree in English or your internship with an editor during your college years or something to that effect. So you are emphasizing specifically for that job. Perhaps you work part-time as a professor to help with college expenses. List the writing. Maybe, you know, if you're applying for that publishing, you can list some writing contests that you won if you won writing contests or something like that. Something that's going to be really specific that would make an employer want to know more about you. Again, like you said, it's about getting their attention to get that interview. So what you would do is you would study the job description of the position you want. So it's important to know what skills and abilities a prospective employer is looking for in their applicants. So if the ad requires self-reliance and innovative thinking, and these are traits that describe you, then showcase your experience that will exemplify those traits. So again, any experience that you have that's going to show them that you have those traits, then you want to list that on your resume. And one of the questions that you want to ask is, am I meeting all of the requirements? Because one of the things that we also have to consider, yes, the resume is going to get you that interview, but one of the things that we also have to consider is when our students are filling out the application online, or you know, when anyone is filling out an application online, because now they have special software that reads the applications and pulls those applicants that are more that meet most of the requirements. So it's important, I think the whole targeted thing is important to show our students that yes, they need to meet certain skills in a job requirement because they're going to be, I guess, looked at electronically, sometimes not by a human being, and they're going to be pulled based on how well they match that job description. Do you agree? Does everybody agree with that? Yes. Let's continue. So what resume format do you use or teach the most? So if you teach it, oh, thank you. So if you teach it, chronological. So that's the one that we use the most, the chronological. Chronological. So one of the things that for me, when I was, okay, let's see. Kelly says, oopsie, going a little fast. Targeted mostly, but it says targeted. So Kelly says, I have targeted resumes, one industrial, one educational, but both include everything for training skills. CEOs, president, worker. Okay, very good. Chronological. So again, yeah, it's important to have those different types of targeted resumes and teach our students about that. Personally, you have a targeted. So Tara has a targeted resume, and Michelle says she's only taught chronological. Chronological, Nibber says chronological, but sometimes targeted. I've used other types for my personal resume. Thank you, Michelle. Joseph says usually functional, along with conveying that today's social media checks will be done most of the time. Oh, thank you for that. That's something that we have to consider. But that, I think that would be, I don't know if it's a whole nother training, but it's an important thing to mention, Joseph, that our students, they're going to be searching social media for you, I say. They're going to look for you. And I could give you an example of that. So thank you for mentioning that. So one of the things that I experienced is I had applied, this was many years ago, and when LinkedIn had just started, and some of you may have already heard my story, but when LinkedIn first became popular or just started, I had an account and I had applied for a job, and it had asked me to send my resume, my information or my application to to the office assistant. So I sent it and I had their name and everything. And then when I noticed on LinkedIn that individual that I sent my information to had looked at my account on LinkedIn. So yes, they are looking, and that was just a verification that they're going to go looking for you on social media to see what they can find and see what type of person that the individual is. Motto says, I keep a general resume that I rewrite for specific jobs applying for at the time. Very good. And Neighbor says, I used a chronological for 34 years, but I also had a functional. So it really was a combination. Oh, very good. So yes, I have a combination. I also have a CV that I have to keep for the college, but that is like a 6-page resume of everything, or curriculum vitae that I have done, because they want to know about trainings, they want to know about different articles that I've written, they want to know about state and national conferences that I presented and what topics I presented. So they really want to know more about the research piece. So we haven't even gone into that piece. So let me see. I think Michelle had asked about a chronological. No. What was it, Michelle? You asked for functional, right? What I'm going to do, and let me see if I could do this. I'm going to share real quickly. Does everybody see these 2 resumes that I have here? These are a sample of a functional resume. So I'm going to leave these up here for just a second so that you can see skills summary, areas of expertise on Tanya. She has her summary, her areas of expertise, her work experience, education, awards, recognitions, and then technical skills. So she's summarizing her areas of expertise, her skills. And then we have Joe, job scan, and he's got his summary, his professional accomplishments, major skill 1, major skill 2, and major skill 3. Welcome, Joshua Curry. Thank you for joining us. And then we have the work history and education. So do you see how the skills are summarized up at the top? And then, yes, definitely useful for our students, definitely. So we can always place these in the community of practice. I'm going to stop sharing, everybody. Are we good? I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you, Liz Moya, for sending me these. I really appreciate it. Those are great examples, and we could place these in the community of practice. See, Michelle says I teach the 3, but a preferred one is the combination. I teach my customers to tweak every resume according to the position to reflect skills needed. That is really good. It does take a lot of work. Looking for a job is a full-time job, because if they're going to tweak every resume for that job description, that's going to take some time. But again, how much do they want to get an interview? Do they really want that job? Then yes, it's going to take time, and they're going to put that time and effort into that resume so that they will at least get that interview. Tara says it's so true that they understand about the social media. Thank you. Yes. And Mauro, did I already read this? Yes, let me see. Where are we? Are summaries required on all resumes? So what I'm seeing now, and I think they go through phases, because many years ago, I had I don't know if it was a summary or maybe a statement about what kind of job I was looking for. And then after a certain amount of time, it said, no, take that away. We don't need a personal statement or a statement about that. Let's not have that. So at this point, I've seen it come back. So there are a lot of summaries that have come back. And let's see, Nabor says, it's important to teach them how to create a LinkedIn account profile. Very good. Very good. So where was I going with this? So again, summaries at this time are a yes. And sometimes maybe that statement of what kind of job you're looking for and why. So let's move. Let's keep going. So what's important to include? We some of us have been mentioning this. So you may want to provide life priorities or work priorities activity for your students to reflect upon. So what do they want to include? So what are those priorities? What do they want? It's for them to showcase their knowledge, skills, and abilities. Why is it important to showcase your values, to share actions, purposes, and results? And one of the things is do not use the word I on a resume, and explain or define terms, and don't use acronyms. So I was looking at my resume when I was doing this, putting the presentation together, and I was looking at my resume, and I had 1 million acronyms. Well, those acronyms are going to be applicable to adult education, because you know how many acronyms do we have in adult education? I know that's not a bubble, but we have, I don't know, quite a few. 1 million. Thank you, Ms. Moya. We have about 1 million. ESL, ABE, HSE, TWC, TA, TABE, BEST, almost as many as the military. Yes, thank you, Tara. So you could provide a list of things that, like an activity with the list of things that I've done. There are some activities that you can use from the Integrating Career Awareness Curriculum, and I'm going to show you a few activities from that in a little bit. So remember, has anybody heard of the Integrating Career Awareness Curriculum? Just a yes or no, and if not, well, I'm going to introduce you to it shortly. So no. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of no's. There's some yeses. One yes. Oh. Yes, I use it in ABE class. So Andrea, this is going to be very familiar to you shortly. So it's important to include to showcase your skills, showcase your values, share actions, purpose, and results, and don't use acronyms. So let's continue. So to demonstrate your knowledge, skills, and abilities. So when a company posts an open position, it includes a list of duties, required knowledge, and responsibilities. You want to showcase your experience based on that, on your career experience or any work experience, volunteer experience, and awards and recognition. We kind of talked about that earlier. You want to list these things on your resume to help you stand out. So demonstrate your abilities for sure. So continually, while you're working on the resume, continually ask yourself, why is this statement important? And share only high-level activities that demonstrate your ability to perform. One of the things they say is that employers want to see, they want it quantified. Put a number to it. What have you done? You helped increase sales by 50% or 75% through what? So they want to see more of numbers. You quantify it. So share those activities that are going to demonstrate your ability to perform. How about your value? You add a career objective or qualification statement at the beginning of your resume. So we talked about the summary, but I think I was kind of talking earlier about that whole career objective or qualification statement. So why do I want this job? What's my objective? But you want to be sure that you add that so they kind of have an idea. And then include activities that best showcase your value and identify what activities and experience a company will find valuable and provide examples to prove your abilities. Because one of the things is, yes, you could get that interview and they're going to want to know how you meet that. What are those abilities? You say you have this, but prove it in an example. So Mauro says, you mentioned that many companies are using software to review resumes. Do they key on specific words, or does that type of resume review allow for these types of resumes or putting in values? I think that it searches for keywords, specific words. So one of the other things that I've seen, Mauro, and everyone, so one of the other things that I've seen is when you have a resume and they ask you, there's some programs, some electronic, when you fill out an electric application, they ask you to attach your resume first. That's the first thing you do. So you will attach your resume in there, and then what it does, what the system does, is it takes the information from your resume and it fills in your application for you. Now that's kind of hard because sometimes it takes information and of course you have to go through every one of the steps, or let's say there's 8 steps in the process to fill out an electronic application. So you have to go through each one of the steps and just make sure that the information that system has pulled off of your resume is correct. So it's really helpful to, I think, in this sense, to have that chronological resume. So Nabor says, can you share the previous slide? So I hope that helps, Mauro, in terms of the resume and how, yes, that electronic system is looking for those keywords.
You have one more question from Susan.
Oh, what happens when you don't have quantifiable data? That's a good question. I think it's, I mean, you don't have to, but you do want to, how can I say this? You do want to describe the value that you bring based on that skill. What is it that makes you stand out? What can you tell me about those abilities that's going to stand out? So if you don't have quantifiable, then what is it about that skill that makes you stand out above the rest? So give an example of that. Or maybe you don't have that, so you just put what that skill is and how you've used it. I hope that helps. And Model says, so this is a filtering process to reduce the number of resumes to be viewed by HR. Yes. So what it does is it filters out, and it's going to pick out the individuals that match that description with the highest percentage. Thank you for asking. So when you list an activity under each position you've held, provide actions, a purpose, and a result. So I kind of said that already, right? Action, purpose, and a result. Use a bulleted list, 3 or 4 bullet points, or a paragraph to get your meaning across. Use powerful action words and don't write like a job description. So I've seen an actual resume that had the exact statements from a job description placed into the resume. It was the exact words verbatim. But what you want to do is, yes, you want to match the job description. You don't want to copy it and paste it into your resume. So yeah, too targeted. Thank you, Tara. Yes, too targeted. So Kelly says, it's fun to watch students who don't realize that there is a scanner machine that goes through all of those submitted resumes. Yes, very good. So yeah, don't be too targeted, but you do want to provide some examples. Yeah, don't copy and paste from the job description. Put it in your own words. All right, avoid using I. Again, I mentioned that earlier. Do not use the word I. Pronouns aren't keywords, so machine scanning is programmed to find keywords. Use verbs successfully completed or continually recognized. So I'll provide later on, I'm going to provide some information again from the Integrating Career Awareness curriculum, and I'm going to show you how to find that on the web. And Deborah says, I've been told to be sure your email address itself is also business-like. Oh, Deborah, thank you for mentioning that. Yes, very important. You don't want to have sillykitten@gmail.com or anything like that. You want it to be professional. So yes, thank you for mentioning that. You want to make sure if your students have some kind of crazy email that you have them create another one that is business-like. So yes, so somebody says they tell, Sherry Lee says she tells her students that all the time, but it says same for your voicemail. That is another good advice for your students. Change your voicemail. Andrea says, I found that some students need help creating email addresses and learn how to compose and open messages. Andrea, that could be a whole nother training in itself. Because I went to a session in Cambridge, and they had a curriculum that they had created, and every teacher used it in the class. In addition to teaching their class, there was a resume and an email etiquette curriculum incorporated into each class. So at every class, the students learned a little bit about email etiquette every day. And they would email the teachers their assignments, and then the teacher would respond not only to their assignment, but to how well or what they were lacking in the structure of their email. So it was a really good lesson. It was a little bit more on the teachers, having to evaluate emails and provide feedback, but I think it helps our students learn. And Sherry says, setting up Gmail is a class session that I have in my Intro to Computers class as well. Very good. So yes, Gmail is the greatest. All right, let's move on. So acronyms often stand for highly technical terms that only a company insider would understand. And I kind of mentioned that, TA, TWC, PII, SIIP. So if you can't explain an acronym with one simple sentence, then just write out what it stands for. Yes, Tara, it's good information to give the class. Okay, ITP, Internationally Trained Professionals. We have EL Civics. What's EL Civics? English Language. ELL, English Language Learners. So many acronyms that we probably, there you go, OPT, GED, IET, very good. Thank you, very good. So are these aspects, think about what we've talked about. Are these aspects you have considered when teaching resume writing? So all these different aspects. Don't use I, different things that we've covered already. So yes, have not taught it yet. Well, will you be teaching it soon? Yes, most of them. Okay, well, like I said, it's a refresher. You probably already know this, and it's something that our students really need from us, because if they don't learn it from us, then they may not know. They may not get it from anywhere else. So thank you all for your response. So we're going to move on to the next item. Integrating career awareness. So I mentioned this before. How many of you have seen this? How many? Yes, you could get a copy of this presentation. Just email me and I will send it. Kelly, yes, you have the PDF. Seen it but never used it. Very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the ICA Section 2 self-exploration process. But before we do that, what I want to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to share my screen. This one, hold on. I don't want to do that yet. No, let's try this one. All right. So what you're seeing right here is my screen. So what I did was I Googled Integrating Career Awareness Curriculum Guide. So you see that several come up. So what I've done is I believe I went to the third one, Integrated Career Awareness into ABE and ESOL, because this is links. So I'm going to click on that one, put in a new tab, and we're going to see that it takes you to the links page. So this one, you have the resource, the guide, the link to the resource here. And when you could cut and paste this, oopsie, you could cut and paste this resource into your, or you could just do a right click and say open in a new tab, and that's going to take you here. This page, you could do two things, one of two things. You can download it, the guide, and if you do a right click here, that's going to open up and it's going to be the guide. So here it is, it's in a PDF. You see this? This is the guide, the whole thing. It takes you through all. So what we're going to look at today is Section 2, the self-exploration process, but we're not going to look at the whole thing. I'm going to take you through a few things that are going to be helpful for your students. So here it is. It's 210 pages long. So it's got a lot of different activities, but I'm going to take you through a few. So the other thing is when you're on this page, when you get to this page, the Integrating Career Awareness, and what I could do is I could copy this and I'll place it in the chat box in a minute if Liz hasn't already. But what you could do, the other thing, the really important thing about this page is right here at the bottom where it says downloadable, you have modifiable handouts. If you click on that, let's open that up. And that's going to download the whole, and I don't think you can see it, but that's going to download the whole, here it is, share, okay. Can you see that? That's going to download. Now I can't see if you're saying yes or no, but can you see that it's going to download the whole book? But what it does is it gives you the book in Word format. Thank you, Liz. So I'm going to stop sharing. So thank you for that. So it's going to download the whole curriculum in a modifiable Word document. So you can go in there and download it and adjust those exercises to meet your needs for your classroom. So you don't have to use it just like it is in the book. You can modify it to meet your classroom needs. So how awesome is that? I think it's great. So we're going to look at Section 2, the self-exploration process. So you're not going to really be able to see the handouts, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So in Section 2, there's Lesson 4, and it is called, it's on transferable skills. Oh, yes, let me go back. So Michelle wants to know where we found the modifiable download button. So I'm going to share again. Okay, so right here on this page. And I think, Liz, did you put this one in the chat pod? And I'll do it right. I'll copy it right now and I'll paste it in there as soon as we get out. But right here on this page, and I'm going to paste this in there. If you go to the very bottom of this page, and like I said, I'll put the link in shortly, it says modifiable handouts, and you could click on that, and that's going to give you a zip drive with all the files in it. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to paste that in there for you to access. There it is. This will take you directly to the page where you download the book in a PDF format, or you download this, access to this web page where you could get the modifiable link. Got it? Very good. Okay, so let's talk about Lesson 4, the transferable skills. So we all have transferable skills. So what are they? So this lesson, the objective is to aid students in identifying their own transferable skills. So what are those skills that I have that translate into the skills that they are looking for in this job? So this kind of talks about a reading that they want you to go through. It talks about what they do. It has students look at what they do day to day. So what are those skills? If you're a housewife, we have a lot of students that are housewives. They're like, well, I'm just a housewife. What what skills do I have? So it kind of, thank you, Nabor, soft skills. So it kind of takes them through and says, okay, well, I have to do meal prep every day. I have to prepare meals for my family. I have to do grocery shopping. I have to make sure I have enough money for the whole month to, buy the groceries, or I have to do laundry. So they have organizational skills because they organize their day to do everything they need to do. They have to get the kids up, get them ready, get them breakfast, take them to school, pick them up. What do they do in between there? So they have to have budgeting skills, because if they're going to go to the grocery store, they need to know they have those planning skills. They're going to plan their menu, they're going to plan what they need to buy, and they're going to make sure that they meet it within their budget. So there's a lot of different skills, like managing your time, organizing activities, cleaning, running a household, staying within a budget, helping make decisions. So there's a lot of different skills that people don't really realize that they have. What are those skills that you use that can transfer to those skills that are needed in a job? So let's continue. So that's lesson 4, transferable skills. And then we have things that I have done. This is lesson 5, part 2. So this is to help students identify, again, more transferable skills. And this activity, students will complete a lifeline section 2, lesson 5, part 1. So again, they're going to go through a list. There's a list of things that they have done. And the list is kind of like working with people. So they've taken care of a sick relative, given medicine, taken care of a child who's disabled. Under working with data, there's writing checks, doing a budget, recording money. So different things that they've done that they really don't recognize that are a skill that they could check off this list and say, okay, so I work well with people, or I work with data, or I work with things, because it says take care of plants, cooking, house cleaning, caring for animals, repairing equipment, repairing appliances, operating equipment, lawnmowers, saws, forklifts, using tools. So there's different things that students can discover that things that they've done actually are skills that they can use in a job. So they really do have a little bit of experience. It's not work experience, but it is experience that they have doing that. So they do. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to talk about is identifying skills. And this one, again, is to help students learn about skill categories and to identify their own skills. So this one, it has them check off the different things that they have experience in: communication skills, number skills, technical skills, business, and then management and self-management skills. So they go through the list and say, yeah, I can use a calculator. Well, that's a number skill. I keyboard. Well, that's a number skill. So different things, different skills that they might have that they didn't recognize that are a skill. Identifying job values. So this one is to help students identify what job values are and their importance in choosing a career. So this is lesson 10, all in section 2, identifying your job values. So this one, you explain to students, it says right here, it tells you about the activity, that as part of the career awareness process, they have had an opportunity to identify skills. Another step in the career awareness process is to identify what they value in a job. So again, identifying job values, and it provides the handout. It provides a job value inventory. And again, I don't have that here, but like I said, you could download that book and you have it in there. But what it does is you rank items. It gives you 12 items, and you rank those items based on how important you feel that they are in the job that you want. So is a good salary, is benefits, is job security. So what are those values? What is most important to you? So they have a list of 12 and they rate them. So this is kind of going to help them discover. And sometimes with this activity, you could talk about it. So why is having good benefits more important sometimes than just having a good salary? Or why is the job security more important than, what have you? So again, what is it that's going to make them think about, well, what are my job priorities? Why am I looking for a job? So Sherry Lee says, the college I work at has a resume generator that helps the students with identifying some of these skills and a survey to help them discover values. Very good. Well, that's awesome. So not everybody has that, but these are always good activities. So the next one I'm going to go through really quick. Let's see, prioritizing job values. this is to help prioritize the work values and clarify the importance. So again, this is part of the other job values. This is kind of taking the top 6 that they selected, and then they go into why they could not manage without them. So it's kind of digging a little bit deeper into, okay, so these are your top 6. Why are they your top 6? And then the next one is lesson 12, part 1, looking at their interests, skills, and values. And this is to help students understand the relationship between their interests, skills, and values and their abilities, and how that informs educational and career options. Again, these are I really like these activities because they're going to help our students with that whole career exploration, self-exploration, learning more about themselves and the skills that they really do have. So what are your thoughts on ICA? Are these lessons applicable or adaptable to your course and to your students to teach them? I know we went through them pretty quick, but it says to many of my students, yes. Yes, they are. Most definitely, yes. I love them too. Very good. So for those of you who have seen them already, great. For those of you who haven't, and Tiffany says they're adaptable, thank you. It seems like, Michelle says it seems like these would be good lessons to do first before we teach. Yes, yes. So yes, that's why one of the reasons that I'm showing you these is because this is a good introductory to then generating a resume, because they're going to think about their skills. They're going to think about what they have to be able to put it on their resume, because some students come to us and they're like, well, I don't have any work experience, or I don't have, I'm a housewife. So this is a way to get people thinking about what they can include on their resume. Thank you. So using action words. So concise verb-based sentences are more powerful than wordy phrases. So produce a statement that is dynamic and energetic. Again, we want to make sure that we make ourselves stand out. So some of the action words that we could use are, here's a few examples: accomplished, adapted, administered, budgeted, built, collaborated. So there's all kinds of action words. And one of the things that I found, and let me see, so here they are. So how would you restate this to use action and demonstrate your abilities? Responsible for instruction books, catalogs, and illustrations on technical instructions. How would you restate that? Using the action words: accomplished, adapted, designed, developed, documented, maximized, motivated, negotiated. So here they have responsible for instruction books, catalogs, and illustrations. Maintained, created, adapted, designed and maintained, cataloged. So you could change the wording to make it sound a little, using those action words. Very good. So the original, restated would be manage the desktop publishing of all printed materials, including illustrations, technical writing. So a little bit more detail, right? About, somebody said designed and maintained, cataloged, evaluated. So adding a little bit more, because now we know that you just weren't responsible for instruction books, catalogs. We know that you use desktop publishing, manage the desktop publishing of all printed material on time and below budget. So they're adding a few details that are going to help. Yeah, Michelle says, I like the on time and below budget. So that's going to tell them, that's almost like quantifying it, because you're telling them that you have time management and that you are budget-wise, shows that you know. So in your ICA, Section 2, Lesson 8, it lists, and I just put this in here, there's 246 skills as verbs. So these are going to be helpful for your students to use also. I just wanted to share that with you because it is available for your students. So thank you, yes. This is going to help them with wording. Okay, so let's move, because we're running out of time. Let's talk about, I'm just going to go over them really quickly with you, the 7 ways to botch your resume. So you include things that don't belong. Use personal pronouns. Talked about don't use I, don't use you, don't use they. Hiring an incompetent resume writer. I don't know, I don't think I would pay anybody to do it, but some people have. And highlighting job duties, not your achievements. So we want to highlight achievements. Not proofreading for errors, because a lot of times they find, thank you, Michelle, and we're almost done. Outdating or unprofessional email address. We talked about the whole email address. Somebody mentioned that, right? And then not putting enough time into writing your resume. And then the final tips for all basic resumes: keep it professional, keep it brief, list specific skills, know your references, or let your references know that you are going to be using them as a reference. and then update your resume regularly. So there might be a new skill, add it to your resume. So very good. Any final comments or questions? We're at the end. Any final comments or questions? I thank you for joining me today. But one of the things that I did want to say is please join us for next Workforce Wednesday on April 22nd, where we'll be talking about retooling transition to college to meet English language learner student needs, and that will be with Christopher Sheffield. So again, join us. Thank you.
Lots of positive comments. Thanking you, Olga. Very helpful. Thank you for the resources in the class. Thank you for all your information. Lots of thank yous. Thank you, Dr. O. And ICA was great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ICA is going to be already done for you. You just go in there and you could do it with your students. So thank you all. Like I said, refresher, just some information, some guidelines to provide to our students. And yes, if you email me, and I do not have my email address up there, I can send you the PowerPoint. There it is. Grab it. I put my email in there. Thank you, neighbor. Thank you. Liz, welcome. I didn't see you there. I kind of tried not to pay attention to the chat or to the enrollment because then I would get distracted. So thank you all. I appreciate y'all being here today. Thank you.